Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamers back with another Kickstarter preview. And today, I am joined by Bairnt from Meet Me at the Table, and sometimes he moonlights or slums it with One Stop Co-op Shop.
Right.
And we're going to talk about Rogue Angels. And I'm thrilled Bairnt's joining me for this day because he's played this game probably twice as much as I have, and he played it in the previous iteration of the game before they didn't fund on their Kickstarter, and then they're going to relaunch. And as a bonus, for some of this video, you'll be able to see Barrett's video of his playthrough that he did, so you can kind of see what the game looks like in its prototype form. So all of that together. So we're just going
There
to
you
do
go.
a relatively quick discussion about the things that we really enjoy about the game, and then a little bit about our quibbles, the things that might stick in somebody's craw that might not be for them. And so we're gonna go back and forth a little bit. And I got a big list. He's got a big list. We're probably not going to cover all of it, but to start out, the first thing that I really dig about the game is I like the card play of the
For
game. And
sure.
so this whole it gives me a little bit of an Oathsworn vibe, a
hmm
little bit, even though I guess they've been developed at the same time. But the different cards have different cooldowns, and the way that you can speed up your cooldown by taking that rest action to move it, that means you're going to do less that round. And then along with that, the way that the dice work, that you're using your dice to give yourself boosts. And sometimes you're going to heal yourself, and sometimes you're going to get to move a little bit. I think that's really, really cool. So that's kind of the first thing that I really kind of dig about it. How about you, Baron?
I'm just almost on the same vein. Yes, I think that's fantastic deal. I also like that each character has take basically a unique set of cards minus the two basic actions everybody has. The way it works is you do have two basic actions you always have to have in your deck, but then as the game grows, you can actually change out some of the cards or add cards to your deck to give yourselves more ways of being able to uh, play your characters. I do like that. And I love what you're talking about, the dice that they boost, because I love that the fact you play your actions so you know what you're kind of getting. And then you might do better, or you might do something that doesn't really help that much. But you know what? Anything you're doing with those dice is basically going to help you. Say you need to do 3 damage, but you roll 2 movement. That means that you could maybe change your target because you can use the movement before you make your shot. So maybe that might be something advantageous. So it gives you so many options just with the way the cards and dice work. I love the options that you have.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's a good amount of mitigation in there with your focus, though. I
yes.
I tended to burn through my focus, and then I spent the rest of the fight like, oh, I wish I could reroll. But it is there. You do have the possibility. You're talking about the card growth as you get to add things to your
Yeah.
deck. I'm thinking about those weapon packs or whatever that
Yes.
you get to open up. Some of those things are really cool.
Yeah, like,
And
there's a minigun in there that does, like, 5 damage or something, but you
yeah,
can't move or something, which is or you don't get your free rest, which is pretty detrimental, but 5 damage is pretty good.
yeah, it's the very cool things in there, and I opened up far more than I unlocked
Yes.
to just, kinda check out. I was like,
The
"Well,
idea
what
of what
would
it
I
is.
get?" And I was like, "Oh, I want that now. Maybe I wouldn't be so bad at the game."
That's right. The other
Uh,
thing that one of the probably the thing I like the most is the way that the story isn't just a big long story. It's kind of like if you play video games, it's very similar to having like little cutscenes that happen during the game. And I think that's fantastic because you're not bogged down in a book. You're only there for a short period of time, and it even shows like little pictures of who's talking, kind of like you would see in like a
yeah,
like
but at the bottom of
in
the
something.
screen,
Yeah, I think
hit
that's
hit
pretty awesome.
hit circle to skip
Yep, to
this type
advance
thing.
to the
Yeah.
next thing, and with those, throughout the story, then you have to make and there are, of course, choices. A lot of people say this is very similar to Mass Effect, and I would say that's very true. You make your choices, and the reason that these choices are so important is that they're gonna determine kind of the personality of your character. If you ever played Mass Effect, if you kept picking, like, the happy, like, nice guy kinda thing, you might get an extra talking point for being such a nice person, or if you pick the not so nice person, you might get more of a negative type or intimidating type response you could get on a person.
Yeah,
And
everybody, Barrett and I are actually the same person. I just picked more of the negative things earlier on in the playthrough, and he picked the happy ones.
That's right. And well, actually, to your point, there's two parts to this. One, that there is like a pair of little legacy element, or not, shouldn't say legacy, but kind of like your character's determining factors towards different social groups that you meet in the game. But even though you pick negative, I always say negative, but it's not negative. It's just that they may view you more as an intimidating person or more have a more dominating presence. And so instead of like thinking of it as an evil person, it's not. It's more like a way of how they view you. And you
Well,
might
I mean, one of the first choices that this is a slight spoiler that you get to make on that is there's someone's there begging for their life, and your boss is like, "Kill him," and you have to choose: do you want to just execute them or not? I mean,
that is
that's
true. That's kind of a, that's I would say it starts pretty brutal, but you
out
never
of
know how
curiosity.
it
Did did
starts.
did you execute them?
That's a negatory.
Oh, I did.
Oh, good. So see right there, you already have a branching path, and I know from that particular moment, that's going to change the way that the story goes for you versus me, because later on in the game, it's going to ask you to have a certain node marked off on your
Yeah.
character sheet, which is going to make something happen in the missions.
Yeah,
Uh,
and what's interesting about it is because I did flip and read what would have happened the other way just so I could
mhm,
have an idea, and very different story.
yeah,
Very different, like, things happen differently. I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit later on also. Next thing that, I particularly could kind of enjoy now, don't have a finished thought on this because I didn't even play through the entire first chapter. There's a huge book that they sent us with the
mhm,
prototype. I mean, it must be 200 pages or something, but it's got some interesting world building going on, and it's like a slow drip of world build. It just seems to me, and so, I mean, I was intrigued by it, and I'm not usually into the sci-fi dungeon crawls. I have Galaxy Defenders that I love. I played a lot of Infinity Defiance, and that's the end of my sci-fi dungeon crawlers right there. I know you're all into Alien and Aliens and Alien 3 and
and
Alien
all alien
Prometheus
everything.
and
Yeah.
Alien, PTA, Back to School Night. Yeah, so, how do you feel about the world building?
I think it's good so far. I really, like you said, they've only scratched the surface of it when it comes to what I've done in the game. Because I've only played a few of the missions, and it kind of opens up with you kind of being. It doesn't open up with you being just a nobody. You already kind of are like a mercenary type concept of the game, which really means that you're kind of stepping into you've already gone through like just like basic training and all this, which is pretty nice. I did look at the back of the book, and it shows like an entire galaxy, like and all these different like worlds and things like that. And I'm super excited to see how my choices affect how these are going to play out. If I remember right, this game is based on like a book series or an older game series that had been made a while ago, and it's still in the same world as that. I haven't really dug into that particular uh, part of it. I've really only played the game, but I think that this has a lot of potential when it comes to world building. And I know that as you play through it, you're only if you play through it once, you're only seeing a small portion of this game. I think he said there's somewhere upwards of like I want to say 80 missions or something in the first part, but you're only going to see like 40 of them or something because of your determining factor of how you decide to choose your thing. And of course, he's adding more and doing more as he goes. So it's not like you're going to have to spend hours and hours and hours and see in order to finish the game. You'll be able to finish it, but you're not going to see it all. You're not going to. You're only going to see one outcome of how that happens.
Well, I mean, if you gotta play 40 missions,
Mhm.
that's like 40 to 60 hours.
It is.
That's a
It's going
lot.
to be
That's a
big.
lot. Well, one more thing, but I skipped off on the mechanics wise. Um, Overall, I like the you have the little color wheel on
Hmm.
your player board.
Personality.
Your personality, thank you. And
Yes.
as you do things in your story, make your choices, you get little bonuses there that you can spend with some of your cards. But you only spend them once in the fight, so you're waiting for that moment to like. It just kind of reminds me like you're drinking your potion in the dungeon crawl.
Yes.
Here's your moment. Use it. I kind of dig that. I mean, I didn't get to do much of it in playing 3 missions, but I assume as they get later on, you'll have 6, 7, 8 of these things and get to kind of feel like a
Yeah.
superhero and stuff.
You do. I've made it up to through all the missions I've played. I've been able to color in a few extra boxes, so you get a couple extra ones of those things to do. And on top of that, by the point I had gotten done, it had already allowed me to add one of the reusable stickers to one of the cards. And this is something I think is fantastic: is the fact that not only do you have your cards that you're playing, that like you said, you could do bonuses based on your personality. There's four different colors of personality. I don't remember exact names for them, but it's like let's
I believe they're called red and yellow
yep.
and green.
And based on how you perform in the or what you choose in the story, I shouldn't say perform, but what you choose in the story, your personality for your character is going to go down certain lines, and you might start building up a lot of red tokens. Well, at that point, when it tells you to add an adhesive sticker, you might want to look for a red sticker to add to one of the cards that doesn't have an ability on it yet, because that way you have more options with that card. And I think that's a fantastic system. So not only are you getting new stickers and being able to enhance your cards, you're able to enhance them in the way that you want to play your character. And I think that's super cool that you're gonna be able to personalize all your characters.
I do say putting stickers on the cards that does makes me sweat a little bit.
They are removable. They're reusable.
Yeah, yeah, I believe it. You know, oh, I just it makes because like I'm
I
always
know.
like but like what if I hate what I did? I always feel that way. Uh,
Yes.
so the two last things that stuck out to me that I really actually dig. One, I love so the game's using standees for the bad guys, which
Mhm.
I am fine with.
Yes.
When as I start to think of like and my personal favorite is give me a mini for my heroes, which I'll paint, and then give me full color standees for the bad guys. Acrylic's better, but full color standees. As we were talking about before we started, I'm a little down on acrylic standees. I just spent 3 hours peeling plastic off acrylic standees for another game. But in general, but I love that the stats are right there
Yes.
on the bad guy. I love that. Then another game that we've done a playthrough of, a Dungeon Alliance, does that too. It's got all the stats right there. You can just look. I am such a huge fan of that. And the other thing I really dug is the way the AI works. There's a whole card of these AIs, and there's a red side and a yellow side, and some bad guys are red, some are yellow. And every round the card flips, which tells you which bad guys are going to operate. But because there's all these different AI cards, the same bad guys can operate differently in different scenarios, and they can even change how they act mid scenario. I think that's pretty cool, pretty inspired.
Yes, the activations in this game are super good. You get one activation for yourself, then the enemies activate. And it's not okay, all my heroes are gonna go. Now we have to spend 10 minutes doing the bad guys. It's your guy goes, and then like you said, you flip the card, you perform, it's only usually moving only two guys. And I know it sounds weird because you're like, well, there might be like six guys on the board. Why am I only moving two? Well, it actually works. I was kind of a leery of this. I didn't think it was gonna work as well as it does. I was thinking, well, why would I just not kill those guys and just the other ones, whenever activated, will be just fine. No, you need to kill these guys because they're going to hurt you. They're going to hurt you bad. So you need to get rid of these guys off the board. And so as they're activating, and like you said, it goes back and forth, and it's super fast, super easy. And the like you're saying, you have those standees, and you put them into what's going to be like hero click like dials. For those of you who don't know what hero click is, it's basically like a clicking dial that you can then turn. If you've ever played Mage Knight, it has it for the castles, and that's where you're going to be able to put their damage. And so every person can just slide their standee right into these things. You put them on the board, boom, ready to go. And then, like you said, all their stats are right on that character. You just read what it is. But there's a stack like this big of those AI cards. So fighting a probe, like we actually fought like a rogue droid or whatever that was different for the first one we fought. The first one was like coordinated attack. They'd move up almost together and fire at like the same target over and over again, really like pinpointing their person. In this one, we played like a defensive attacker, and so all of a sudden they're moving to their maximum range, and the first one's shooting while the second one's healing the guy. And I'm like, why is oh my gosh, they're healing? This is terrible. We got to deal
Stupid
with this now.
droids.
Droids, right? So,
Yeah.
like you said, that the AI system in this is super fluid, super fast, and it works. I had my doubts on it, but it actually works very well. And my thing is the fact that there are 16 characters you can play this game, and they do have miniatures for the characters. So
Yes,
that's really
I
fun.
went to the I think I looked at the Kickstarter preview page, or maybe it's in the front of the rule book. I don't know, somewhere. So I saw that. I'm like, it was 16 characters. That's a lot. It's gonna be a lot of choices there.
And
Um,
you can switch them out if you want to, if you don't like your character. It's not he encourages you to play through the game with the one character because it kind of makes the game feel like that character's story. And every character, another cool part, has their own backstory and is going to have their own missions in the game or are going to be able to affect missions in the game based on who they are and what they've just because of their past they're bringing to the group, which is kind of cool. And if they complete those, they might get extra bonuses or extra cards that they're going to be able to add to their deck or an extra ability that they have on their player board that they're going to be able to take advantage of.
yeah, so the last thing I want to talk about, which is a little bit of transitioning me into my quibbles with the game, is the health and wound system. And so every time you get take a damage past
Oh,
your shield, you draw a wound card and it will do something.
hmm
And then often you have to stick that into your cooldown, which takes up the spots. And if ever all your cooldown spots are filled with wounds, you're I don't know if you're knocked out, and it happens to everyone. Then
you're
you all
if you
die.
can't place a wound in the 4 slot, then you become unconscious. You could actually have two open slots in 1 and 2, and if you're unlucky enough to draw a wound on 3, a wound on 4, and then a wound on 3, you can't play that card. You become unconscious.
Yeah. So it's and now it wasn't. I wasn't actually fully clear if the wound cards move on cooldown or not
Yes,
when you
they do.
rest. So that's what I thought. So what I like about it is that you can rest. You take the rest action, and those wounds will go away. So you can kind of self heal. You don't get your shield back necessarily. You get that back by rolling the die. But this little self healing thing I thought was really, really cool. But on the other hand, if your luck is crap, like you just said, you're just done. And so I can go either way on that. So it's kind of the in between. Like I love the drawing of the card; it does a thing,
Yeah.
and I like that it clogs things up and you can heal it. But then sometimes one of the games, like I had to start one over because I got hit like twice, and
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, oh well, I'm done.
Well, if you have multiple characters, at least your other character can come and heal those wounds off you, and you come back to life.
Man, I'm not healing that loser.
Wow! And the interesting thing is not you don't even have to have a health pack. You can actually use the interact action, which is a
Yeah,
basic action to be able to heal. So you're not technically out, but it is all of a sudden you're like, oh man, my guy went down. We actually almost went down in one of our missions just a little while ago. We Colin was actually full of injury cards, and we're like, we have to figure out how to get him back up, man. This is gonna be bad news, and because we got maybe a little excited and ran out into the enemies, and like you said, they could do some damage. Now, the thing I like about those damage cards is that is a way that I haven't seen in too many games, and maybe in any game, is that you can individualize your difficulty level for each player because there's different difficulty levels on those injury cards. You're going to get injury cards. That's going to happen because your shields can't hold up forever. But say you want to play on normal, you can play on normal and you only take the first part of that card. If I want to play on the insane difficulty, then I would have to deal with all three of those. The first one might say place it in slot 2, and the second one might say all of your movement abilities now are -1, and the last one could say when you remove this card, you lose a focus. So like there's
yeah,
a whole bunch of different things that can happen based on those injury cards. You can choose which difficulty you want to play on, which I think is super cool. I haven't seen that in a game.
yeah. It is very very clever, and that does bring me into the quibble section
Oh
of
yes.
this. And so the first one is that for a game that is relatively low luck, the way that those wound cards can just kind of
Yeah.
stack up on you, that might rub some people the wrong way, especially if you're looking for one of those lower luck dungeon crawls, which this is, I think, overall. The next thing that kind of jumps out to me is I did feel like some of the story beats felt a little bit like we're doing a story beat here to do a story beat. And so I'm thinking of so the choice that I made
Hmm.
where I executed the person versus the choice where you made where you did not execute the
I did
person.
not. No.
It felt like the story beat after I executed the person was just a well, we have to have something happen here.
Oh,
Like it,
okay.
it just I was like, really, it felt like the story should have been that's the end of the mission,
Oh, sure.
right? Instead of the thing that happens if you don't.
Right.
And so I'm of two minds. One, I got to play more, which
Yep.
is fun. But on the other hand, for the story, I was like, "Ah, I don't really need this here." And so I don't know if we go through this whole story, are all of those story beats going to be necessary, or are some of them just there to kind of fill the gap? And I
Right.
don't know, and so I'm certainly not saying that they are. Like I said, I played 3 and then I read through about 6 or 7 more to kinda
Sure.
get the gist. So for a game that has I don't want in a game that's pretty epic feeling, I don't want anything that feels like, "Well, and now we did this." So I
No,
just
I
don't know where
totally
it's gonna go. I haven't read enough.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I can see what you mean. I do know what you're talking about with these two particular moments, where one something happens if you save her, where if something doesn't happen, it's just kind of like, well, since you did that, we're just gonna do these things to make it harder for you to get out, and you
Yeah.
got to try to get out now. And so it was it depends. I can see that being something like you said, an epic game. Like I've always said, every game is not perfect. I mean, even we played all the way through, for example, Oathsworn, and there were a few missions there were kind of like, what are these doing in here? I mean, why this isn't really needed? You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think it would be ideal if everything was an epic moment. But if you have epic moments all the time,
And if everything's epic, nothing's epic. Yeah. Yeah.
so in the same vein, I mean, for my one of the things I'm a little worried about in this game is like we talked about earlier. It technically is going to be kind of a longer game to play through. Am I going to play through it again?
Right.
Because
Now
it's
you were
really
talking about uh, playing through the same characters all the way through. And I like that, but then on the other hand, I wanna play if I have
Mhm,
16 characters, I wanna play them. So I think about how, like, we've been doing just, our friends, we've been playing through, Wander Cult of Barnacle Bay,
mhm,
and, they've been sticking with their characters, they love their characters. Every game, I'm switching to a different one,
yeah,
and it doesn't matter, you can do that, and I love how and, like, Kinfire Chronicles that we talked about, you can just switch characters in and out, and so, Oathsworn too, and so
yes,
I love being able to experience all the different characters because I there is outside of Dungeon Alliance, which is, a 4-game campaign, right? Dungeon Alliance and Barnacle Bay, I can think of and Galaxy Defenders. I have never played through an entire campaign twice, which means
yeah,
I'm never going to and even if I played a full 4 characters, I would have to play this game 4 times
yep.
to do that, and that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it'd be really tough to do. I mean, it's you and I are in definitely a I shouldn't say unique position. I think that's going to be across the board more often than not. It's not like we're looking for one game to play for the next year. We
That
always
that
have
that that is
fun,
also true, like, we do get a lot of games that come through, and so that is kind of
and I think there's other
a
people
reviewer
very similar
problem.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that have the same problem. I shouldn't say same problem, but it's not going to be like this is a life game for them, and so they're not going to play it through. Like I'll play it through once, no problem. Would I be able to get it to a second time? I would love to, but I'd have to find that group that does it because I know for a fact I'll play it through with Colin, but I don't know if I'd be able to get my family on board to play through it, or if I'd have a gaming group that want to play through it, and I don't know if I would do it solo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of finding another group to play it. If I found another group that said, "I would love to play Rogue Angels," I'd be like, well, "Let's do it! Boom! This is gonna be awesome." It's kind of like Kingdom Death. I'll play Kingdom Death. Great game. Anybody else want to play it? Perfect. Let's do it. Boom! I played through it once. I'll do it again. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I
It's
know
just
you're going to because you got your gambler's chest, right?
true. I am gonna play through it
I
again.
know I'm looking forward to a new thing, which was from the point of this. So now, and also to kind of add the caveat there, we're talking about a game that potentially playing through all of Rogue Angels once, which might be 40, 50, 60 hours. I mean, that is a lot of time for, the $120 or whatever that's going to cost.
Yeah.
So, it just kind of put that there, but everyone always likes to talk about replayability.
Yeah.
And so it's with any of these story-based games, like it's there,
Yeah.
but, some of the major beats are going to be the same, and unless you make that choice, like, "Okay, well, this
Yeah.
time I played like Bairnt this time, I don't play like
That's
Will this time,"
right.
you know?
Exactly. If you choose to play like Bairnt, you'll have one completely different play than if you play with William. William have a
Yeah.
completely different play than me, which would be
Yeah,
awesome.
it's just all murder, death, and pain if you play with
Murder, death,
me.
and
Like,
pain. I'm saved
you
at the
really have to
very
question, are you the bad guy if you're playing with me, you know? You don't know.
And honestly, I think that's really, to me, such a small quibble because of
Mhm.
all the other things that are in this game that are absolutely, they're not, I wouldn't say all of it's not revolutionary, but it works together really well. The mechanics are super tight and they work well. I've said this many times when it comes to trying to describe this game. I say all these great things about it, and I honestly, it's really hard for me to find something that really didn't work for me. You know what I mean? When it
Mhm.
comes to dungeon crawler, there's usually something that sticks out. You're kind of like, oh my gosh, this is. I'll be able to
Yeah,
play it.
it'll
This
be
looks
the
great here.
initiative system or
Yeah.
the repetitive or whatever. And, and you're right. I actually don't. So, I'm holding up my little thing here. And over here, this is my quibble side right there. That's
Yeah.
it. Um, and so I actually enjoyed it. I think it's really comes down to, do you want that Mass Effect vibe, that
Yes.
space opera
And yes, I
vibe
do.
game? So if that's what if you're looking for that sci-fi dungeon crawler, then you want to look here. I think the stuff it does with the cards are very interesting, and I think it's uh, yeah, I think it's pretty good. I definitely enjoyed it. I have to send it off, which is just as well because I have so many other games I'm supposed to play. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing where it goes, and I hope it funds this time. I suspect it will.
Yes,
You
I
know,
don't see how it can't. I plan to do a video on my channel, kind of explaining what the game is, why it's so good, and things of that nature. And being able to be here with you, I think, is also going to help. One Stop is also going to get a video that will explain a little bit about the game and stuff to kind of encourage people to go look at it, because I think this would be one that if it does not get made, it's going to be a shame to the community not have an ability, have the option to be able to at least try this at some point.
yep.
Because
And
it scares me.
there is a dearth of um, good sci-fi dungeon crawls
Mhm.
that have so like I mentioned Infinity Defiance earlier, which is a good game, but I finally let it go because I just could never fully grasp all the rules. Every time I played, I was like, "Oh, no," and finally I was like, "I can't keep doing that." And this one, I already feel like I got the rules.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I may have played it completely wrong, and there's no one here to
Oh,
tell
I
me
think
I'm not.
I wouldn't
But
doubt if you played it right. He doesn't really do anything revolutionary. He does what works
mhm,
and still makes it fun. And I think he's worked so hard to make that happen that that's why this game works so well. I mean, we just quick line of sight thing. Line of sight is you only block by walls and red terrain. Boom, done. Sounds great. There's not
yep,
like, oh, if it's going through this one type of square, you have to, you're not going to be able to. It's like, no, just make it nice, simple, and fast and fun.
yep. All right, so it is. I've kept you 4 minutes past what I said I was going to keep you, and I know you have children.
Oh,
Now, so
super busy.
everybody, Bairnt has children that are off school, and one of them said that they were going to go dump out the Lego bin. Bairnt, how big is that Lego bin?
Well, you know when you go to Costco to buy tubs?
Mhm.
It's all over the floor now.
Yeah, so Baron's gonna have no feet when he walks upstairs. Put some shoes on because those one by ones are in the carpet all over the place.
Yeah.
But everybody, make sure you check out Meet Me at the Table. There will be a link down in the description. Just click on it. You're probably already there. And you can check out Rogue Angels. There is a link down in the description to that as well. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. Go check out Baron. Wish his little feetsies the best with those Lego one by ones. And Baron, any last thoughts?
No, I'm just excited for the Kickstarter to drop on September 4th, and I'm going to be all in on this one when it hits. And I hope that after you watch this video, I hope you I think the exact same thing, and I hope you're able to help support a great designer, great guy. I've met him a couple times in chat, and he's super fun, and he's created an absolute masterpiece.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
That's
Back in our day, you had dice.
you had to roll to move your guy.